Hello, everyone. My name is David Wickstrom with Vivro. Welcome to today's webinar, Ask an Expert, How to Enhance Your Hot Drink Menu. Really excited about this topic today. We're also glad that you are here to join us and explore how something as simple as water can have such an impact on the flavor, consistency, and performance of your coffee and tea programs. This session today is presented by Vivro in partnership with F&O Imports, one of Vivro's earliest and most trusted distributor partners. Together, we'll take a closer look at what operations need to know about filtration, and we'll also introduce Vivro's new high capacity, high flow filter, or HCHF. Hopefully I will remember that. And this is designed for high volume, hot beverage applications. This webinar will also be recorded and available on our website and YouTube channel. We'll send a link out to all registrants afterwards. We have saved some time at the end of the webinar for any questions you may have, but certainly feel free in the chat box to ask any questions as our experts are talking. So without further ado, I'm going to bring two people to the stage with us right now. Joining me today are two people that absolutely, they've forgotten more about this topic than I think I'll ever know. So I'm thrilled to have Carlos Rodriguez from Vivro Professional Filter and Peter Kelch from F&O Imports. Gentlemen, thank you for joining us today. We're thrilled to have you.
Glad to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
Thanks, David.
Yes, we're thrilled to have you as well. Both have a long-standing experience, decades upon decades of experience in the coffee, tea, and water space, as well as filtration. As I mentioned, they're experts in the field and absolutely going to guide us along the way. So before we dive in, I just wanted to set the stage for our viewers. Water makes up about 90%, 98% of a cup of coffee and tea, yet it's often the last thing people think about or they focus on. Today, we're going to change that by looking at why water quality matters, what challenges operators are facing, and how proper filtration, I'm going to stress this, proper filtration, especially with new technology like the HCHF filter, can transform both beverage programs and operations. So here, let's start. Carlos, I'm going to start with you. Let's start with the basics. This is going to be a softball question for you. Why is water such a critical but often overlooked factor when it comes to coffee and tea?
Yeah, thanks, David. Well, first off, Peter does have a lot more experience on the filtration side. My background has been in coffee for about 10 years. I've worked in different capacities from operations to sales and marketing. And to answer your question, the sizzle is the coffee. People are it is starting to change, especially amongst I would say 10 years ago, that's how people talked about coffee. Coffee, what's so special about coffee? Why am I paying $10 a cup? Well, you have to understand, coffee has so many nuances and it has, all this life to it. So in order to bring out the best flavors, the best notes, water really started to come into the conversation. And, like I said, about 10 years ago, I think that's when we first started to see that. And you started to see, chain-wide, operations-wide, food service-wide, water started to matter. But it's still something that till this day, it's always a pain point for people because at the end of the day, there is a human element to it. And, as I'm sure we'll talk about, during this conversation today, consistency matters. And if proper training is not there, proper service is not there, water is often overlooked, and filtration especially is on the back burner. What's most important is serving the coffee, and coffee is important, but as you mentioned, 98% of what you're consuming is water. So we're just going to continue to keep this conversation and beat it into the minds of operators that this is something that we can't leave forgotten.
Yeah, perfect. And Peter, for your years of experience, can you talk to us a little bit about your interaction and relationship with operators and that importance during your experience and the work you're doing in market for us?
Sure. My industry experience really began with water back in the early 90s, working with Everpure.
Yeah.
And it was really about store systems and just cleaning water and protecting equipment. So very, rudimentary reasons why water filtration's critical to food service in general. So it really begins with that sort of general education, cleaning the water from taste and particulate matter, and doing whatever treatments available to try to protect your equipment. So real foundation. I think to Carlos' point, now we're seeing, 30 years later, this new generation in the coffee industry, particularly specialty coffee, really highlighting these unique flavor notes and characteristics of coffee, which has, to his point, really in the last 10 years, and I think even more so in the last 3 or 4 years, really brought water to the forefront of, hey, this is 98% of what I'm going to taste. If I really want to bring out these flavor notes and provide consistency in taste, I have to look at water as, my primary ingredient. And as the primary ingredient, what am I doing to make sure that it's clean, has the correct taste, and is consistent for my coffee brewing? So we kind of have these two ends of the spectrum I think we bring to the table today to talk about, and that is, the far end, just treating water, protection, consistency, and the other side is providing a consistent water quality and consistent taste as the baseline for tasting coffee.
So I'm also hearing, Peter, too, that coffee, much like wine or beer, I heard you talking about notes. So a proper filtration, if I'm to understand, will either elevate or highlight the notes you want to bring forward, whether it's Sumatran coffee or Colombian or Costa Rican. You want to bring those specific notes, I guess, forward. Is that right?
Exactly. You see all these companies now trying to create the perfect water, and all this work, effort, and money being spent to manufacture pure RO water, add back specific minerals. There's sort of this, just as they've gotten crazy with wines and beers and everything else, it's gotten crazy on coffee, and that leads to, again, this sort of this quest for the perfect coffee brewing water, which is good for all of us because it really highlights how important water is, and the mineral content and the chemistry and where it's coming from, and how you're going to treat it, how you're going to make sure it's as consistent as possible. So we like all that obsession with crazy water. It's not scalable on a large food service, scale, but some of these people are really going to, incredible degrees to have this consistent taste and consistent understanding of the chemistry of their water, which is, I think, again, good. It's highlighting, as with wine and beer and, in coffee, how critical water is.
And Peter, I'll start with you, and then I'll go to Carlos. I hear a lot about lime scale, and I know that's a regional issue for some locations, as well as some seasonal. I bring up seasonal. I live in Chicago. I know when it snows, they use salt to get the snow off the ground. Does that affect water filtration depending on where you live in the country? Is that a factor that you all consider or you see? I'll start with you, Peter.
Yeah, that's a huge factor. Municipal water systems, are really localized. In Chicago, you're very right. Most of the water is coming out of Lake Michigan, but there's areas of the city where it's actually being pulled from aquifers. And if it's getting pulled from aquifers, the runoff from winter salts are seeping into the ground and slowly building up. And yeah, you'll see an increase. It's usually post-winter. You see the biggest effects in the spring. And there's certain parts of the country where it's renowned for their spike in chlorides as a result of winter salting. And we also get just variations in demand. So even cities like Chicago, which for the most part, a suburb might have a water tower and they might be pulling from an aquifer most of the time, but other times they'll share water sources with the city of Chicago. And we have that here. I'm in Minneapolis, and there's frequent system sharing. So the point being is municipal water nationwide is not a consistent chemistry substance. If it's great water one day, it may be, and there's certainly a propensity, and more so in the United States, that water will change seasonally wherever you are.
Very good, very good. And Carlos, proper filtration, then I'm assuming from your perspective it's paramount. To get that same cup of coffee in Minneapolis as to Chicago to San Antonio, you want it to be uniform. Is that right?
For sure. So what you said, David, about lime scale, the lime scale is it's a problem year round. It's something that we, every operator pretty much knows what lime scale is. But what we do at Vivro is we really try to understand specific water solutions or problems and figure out what the right solutions are. Yes, the lime scale is important, and it takes all of our filtration systems take care of that. But as you mentioned, with seasonality, there comes different minerals or different things that are present in the water. So adequate testing is extremely key, and we always try to partner with with companies such as F&O, who really understand water and really are looking to diagnose what the outcome is that the operator is trying to achieve, so that we can provide the right solution and not just say, here's, a lot of people do think like that, like just put a softener on it and take care of lime scale, and that's it. But we do try to look at different areas, like you mentioned, different areas across the North America, as well as different seasonalities. So that's what we really try to educate is, testing your water, figuring out what your end goal is, and how we can best provide filtration and treatment.
Well, and you set up a perfect transition, and this next question is for Peter. It's twofold. Would you welcome a client or operator calling you and saying, "Hey, Peter, can you come out and assess our water situation or our filtration?" And if they say yes, how do you, with the proper filtration, assist operators in cost savings, client experience, and the maintenance of the life of their equipment?
The answer is yes, we do this, and there's multiple ways to address it. Depending on if it's an existing facility, you're typically taking, multiple tests of the water, one of which is just the TDS, like how much dissolved solids in the water, probably a combination of permanent hardness and temporary hardness checks. So looking at calcium content and the propensity for scale buildup, and even in some cases, if it's been problematic water, taking a pH test of the water to see if there's some kind of relative passivity or acidicness to the water that makes it particularly aggressive or problematic. So there's also laboratory testing from multiple institutions. I believe Vivro offers this service. And so you can always take a sample of water and send it in and have it be analyzed on a broad scale if it felt like it was necessary. So we do that in some cases, particularly with people that are experiencing, multiple types of equipment problems and facility problems due to their water. So not an unusual request. And I'll just close with this, if it's a new build out, that's even something where construction hasn't started and they're going to be going to an area and they're saying, hey, we're putting a new cafe or restaurant or facility here. I mean, that's the best case scenario, because then you can do some design planning for water treatment and water filtration that is, back of the house, facility wise for a primary location, and then treat each particular item individually that may or may not need further water treatment.
So, Peter, you just touched on something there. So ideally, it would be you're there with a food service consultant or an architect, and they're talking about, they can have these large ideas of what they want to do, and you can be that voice of, okay, you can do this. This is what you need to make sure your equipment is working properly, your guest experience is properly, and then you at F&O or Vivro can be part of the solution too with these operators. So I'm hearing earlier the better to be in these conversations with folks.
Yes, we we engage with food service consultants, regularly. Usually it's talking about their equipment, and more the emphasis is being placed on what are you doing for water treatment. That conversation, when it starts with a single item, generally leads to full back of the house systems. And now with the new high flow capacity filters from Vivaro, we have the option to consult with them on the possibility of having, a whole back of the house food service filtration designed into the plan. So both the kitchen and the beverage stations are going to receive, filtered water ahead of time in a single source location with filters that have a long life. They can rely on them for regular filter changes. And it'll be at least a single reliable source for full food service water treatment, which wasn't available to us before from Vivaro. And it's just really kind of a game changer particularly for consultants and for long-term design.
That's fantastic. It's a perfect setup there too, Peter. Carlos, what makes this such a big deal, such a milestone for Vivaro to be launching this filter? What are the capabilities for Vivaro now?
So for sure, yeah, great segue, Peter. I think from listening to our distributors, listening to our end users, we had identified an area that we needed to scale our offerings, and it was in a high flow, high capacity filtration treatment system. So as you mentioned, David, I think you mentioned this is like brand new technology. It's not to say that it's brand new to us. It's basically a carbon filtration, active carbon filtration for taste and odor, but also on the hot filter, it does also protect against the lime scale with a different technology. We use a polyphosphate component on the hot filter. So it's not necessarily new, but it's something that we saw a need for because we wanted to offer a full range solution for these high capacity usages. So food service, hot water towers, like your banquet style, coffee brewers, where a lot of demand is going through. We talk about sustainability a lot at Vivaro. So this capacity filter allows for a longer period of coverage, let's say. They can last up to a year. 40,000 gallons is the recommended, or it's what we're rating our new filters at. And yeah, so it's reducing the need, and it's extending the life of and the protection of equipment, while basically keeping the costs low for our operators as well. So that was another thing too. A lot of the filters that we did have were great at very specific solutions, and they still are. But this is just another tool for these high capacity, these high volume locations that may not have the ability to monitor as quickly or to change out as quickly. So this will allow for more of a set it and forget it for a little while at least, and that's what's really new to us, to be able to service that type of customer as well.
I certainly exciting. I work much like you, Peter. I work a lot with consultants and Carlos, and sometimes I smile when I say, "Hey, we're putting in a combi oven. Oh gosh, we should probably think about filtration." It's like, no, you should be thinking about a combi oven and filtration at the same time. It's just like if you're spending $50,000 on any kind of food service equipment, you need the proper gear surrounding that system to make sure it's working well. And it's super exciting too, that capability we're able to do from the Vivaro side, which again is a good transition. And Peter, I'll start with you. We had mentioned early on the partnership we've had with you over the years. What has made it successful from your vantage point? How has that worked out for you, and your thoughts on what makes a good partnership with a company you're working with, and or an operator for that matter?
That's a great question. Well, I mean, in terms of Vivaro and water treatment, one of the things that if I went back in my experience over time, was that most of the companies that are offering food service water treatment have grown to sizes where small specialty operators such as myself, I mean, they're happy to take the business, but we're not significantly relative to their success. And because we're a specialty vendor and we focus primarily on espresso and coffee equipment, it even brings it down to another niche level. So although we utilized a lot of the resources available to us from other manufacturers for years, we sort of picked and chose ourselves. And although there was growth over time, it was pretty hard to grow the business significantly and maintain a strong customer base. I think that Vivro's approach to the market was something that was refreshing and unique, and that was they really wanted to identify regional or identified industry-specific distributors where you could focus on your region in terms of sub-distributor growth, education base. I'm trying to invest in some new customers of your own, having them purchase from you, and also specific industries, and saying, hey, if you can help us here, we'll support you and help direct that business to you. So for us, it's been a really refreshing relationship where there's been this sort of mutual trust and appropriate goals and directives to focus on a territory, focus on an industry channel, work together to grow those simultaneously, provide education in tandem to each other. And I think it's proven successful in that, since they entered into the market, we've essentially achieved our goals every single year. And we continue to work together to really kind of enhance this water knowledge, water education in parallel. And with myself and other master distributors in the market, we continue to grow it. And again, I think coming back to the new product line with high flow, high capacities, again, providing us the tools and resources to bring to market products that our customers, our sub-distributors are asking for, and trying to enhance that relationship to the next level.
I love it. Carlos, same question for you. I'm going to ask you, what makes a successful partnership from your vantage point, whether it's Peter and his team and or operators you're working with?
Well, I think one of the most successful partnerships is mutual beneficial, right? So how can we leverage particular partners' strengths? And what, for example, this webinar as a great example of, us approaching Peter, one of our longest distributors, and asking, we have this new product coming out. Can we test it with you? Can we, have a conversation and sit down? Let's work together to, bring some excitement, hopefully answer some questions, just engage with the community. And regionally, we're always out to support, other vendors of ours and customers' initiatives. This year has been a lot of, we've worked with a lot of different partners on, on the dispenser side, on the professional filter side, and just being available, being there to support each other's businesses. I think that's the essential part. You may not get, what, basically you get in what you put into it. You get out what you put into it. So, we did the right thing by our customers. Not to get too into the weeds about tariffs and whatnot, but we, try to work together with all of our distributors, with all of our partners, and, do the right thing. Whether it was, delaying certain costs and being transparent about, the changes and the difficulties that we face as a company, and how we can, come to solutions together. And I think, we've added on some new partnerships as well this year, and we've seen some growth in a lot of areas. And so we've listened again to our partners, our distributors, and that was one of the things that we took out from basically this new high capacity, high flow filters is a result of partnering with not only our distributors, and customers, but even internationally with our other subsidiaries as well, to bring to market something that we thought we definitely needed. And so far, a lot of great interest, and we're just so glad that we're able to provide mutual beneficial partnerships.
So it's not hyperbole to say, you work with people you trust, their word is their bond, they do what they say they're going to do, and it's not transactional. I think it's common sense, and it's really refreshing to hear that the longest relationships are people Peter can call Carlos, and Carlos is going to take care of his needs, and vice versa. You find those companies you can work with, and success is the only thing that's going to occur. I love that. That's fantastic. Question. I'll start with you, Peter. If I'm opening a coffee shop, or someone is, and what is one or two simple steps an operator, if they're dreaming about owning a coffee shop, and they call you, Peter, I want to set up a coffee shop. What can they take today to get that started? Does
Relative to water or in general?
Yeah, to water, Sorry about that.
It's like, that's a loaded question.
I got lost
in
the I got lost in the question.
There's a lot there. I mean, relative to the water, it is to know what city water you're dealing with. I mean, one of the things that I think, first-time operators usually don't think about, and that is, what utilities am I leasing, renting, or buying before I put a business in there? And so you're pretty much stuck with the water and electricity that building has, and there's certain upgrades or things you can do ahead of time. But for the most part, water is static, and knowing what you're dealing with ahead of a design build is sort of critical to this, one element of the success long term. So we are back to like understanding that you're buying a physical space or leasing or renting a physical space, and then you're dealing with utilities. I mean, water is functionally an operational utility, same as electricity. You cannot operate much business without it, particularly not food service. So I just don't think that operators see it that way. And I think that's a discussion that's often eye-opening. If they looked at it and said, well, you couldn't run this without electricity as a utility, you need to consider your water the same and how you're going to deal with what you're given.
Interesting. That harkens to me to New York style pizza, which is, I'm from Chicago. I like our pizza, but New York pizza, they do have the best pizza in the world. And it's related to their water and their filtration. And it's what I'm hearing, Peter, is you can have these big dreams for a coffee shop and experience, but if you don't get it right on the onset of the filtration and really understanding the parameters you're working with, it may not be the success you had hoped it with. Just really understanding all the facts.
Or it could just be a hurdle in the future.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that is the eye opener to say, if you do some design planning and some planning for what you're going to serve, just like a menu for your beverage menu, if you're treating the water, if you have combi ovens, ice machines, all those things are consumptive water devices, and how you plan on first the amount of investment and how to care for that investment long term is just part of that knowledge. If you know you have good water, you can treat it, taste and odor. But you can also go further and to know that you've got problem water or a propensity to problem water. You can make design investment plans up front to say, well, long term, this is how I'm going to deal with it, device per device, and overall for the facility. But again, I mean, I think that water gets missed as in terms of hospitality and food service. It sort of gets put into that afterthought, as you said. You just talk to a consultant, they're putting all this equipment in, and then afterwards say, oh yeah, we should probably put some water treatment on this. And I deal with this every day because we do projects all over the country, and every day somebody shows up to do an installation. It wasn't specified, and here we are down to the last item practically to get installed, and the installer would say, you have to put a piece of some kind of water treatment on this, or it won't work for more than 90 days. So again, getting that concept to the forefront of anybody who wants to or is seeking to open a food service business of any kind, to have them, again, look at water as a primary utility and understand what they're getting. I would make it the equivalent if you want to go into a building and put in this giant cafe and they have a 50 amp power service and you're going to need 200. I mean, you're going to find that out pretty quick in the beginning, but people don't look at water that way.
Yeah. Well, and we love our friends, our GCs. I'm smiling as you're talking, Peter, because oftentimes we will get a call like post, that they've already done the punch list, and it's like, oh no, gosh, we need this, and we're getting a GC GC has a large punch list that they're working around. Where, to your point, if you're talking at the early onset, it's already been established, spec'd, and properly set up.
So many layers to that too. I mean,
Yeah.
there's independents who just go to a food equipment company. There's nationals who go to big, consultancies and hire consultants. There's architectural firms that are asked to design and they subcontract. I mean, there's the independent person that takes a napkin and draws out their place and goes online and orders equipment. And so, again, I think, in food service with Vivero and any other company, the more that we can highlight water as a food ingredient, as a primary utility, to get it to the forefront well ahead of time, I think the better it is for everybody and for everybody's long-term success. I mean, ultimately, our success is based on our customer success. Yeah. Their success is sustainability and growth. So all of that is tied together.
So a perfect segue. Yep. Go ahead, Carlos.
I just wanted to tag along to that because, I've worked at roasteries, like specialty roasteries as well, where oftentimes, you're wanting to open up a coffee shop. The mentality is, where am I going to get my beans and my machine? And oftentimes they'll go to the roastery to get that consultation. Do you have a coffee program? Do you have an equipment program? And oftentimes they do. So we like to work with, I know Peter does too, working together with roasters to layer in that consultative approach to, let's talk about water. Let's talk about, like, as important as the equipment and as important as the coffee, because basically all of the reasons that we just discussed. So we're seeing that a lot more. We're working together with roasters in Ontario, where I'm from, in Canada. We're really people are starting to really, at the design stage, along together with roasters. They understand how important that is. So just the broader education of water is just helping out every newer build out. I think in the past, perhaps it wasn't, Peter, like you're getting in the service calls of businesses that have been existing already for quite some time. But, that's part of the work I know you do, Dev, and working with, consultants and the designers. That's key. That's definitely where we like to see our growth there.
Absolutely. I love water as a food group. And the minerals I learned through Anastasia, our friend Anastasia, the minerals actually are in the water is what quenches your thirst. That's why if you drink what's the 0 pH water, gosh, it's escaping me, but you're not going to be hydrated. You need the minerals for actual hydration and health and wellness.
Like a straight reverse osmosis.
Right, exactly. Where they take everything out, and there's nothing I guess chemically for the water to actually bond to, where it's
that's a great segue to Chris's question.
Yeah.
Having to do with sparkling beverages. And that's an interesting subject that you can go down a deep hole in terms of water chemistry. But in addition to just carbon filtration for taste and off odors and things like that, water filtration is critical to successful sparkling beverages also. I mean, I think taste is the core part of it. Depending on the device, though, understanding the mineral content will actually give you some really good insights into, whether or not that's going to be an enhanced sparkling beverage or something that's, I would call it, like deadened or deflated. So the best examples, if somebody runs water through a traditional water softening treatment, where you're displacing calcium with sodium and you're reducing the calcium carbonate which is really your temporary hardness. You're reducing that down to 0. And I think most of us have experienced sort of the mouth feel of a very hard, softened water.
Yes.
And for carbonated beverages, it actually, makes it very difficult to provide a crisp carbonated beverage. So you get sort of this a little bit flatter tone. So understanding your water for sparkling beverages is critical for quality beverages and treating it appropriately.
And Peter, and this could be for Peter or Carlos, I'll let you jump in. Is there an ideal pH balance for sparkling and or water? Is there a sweet spot that you should land for people that may not know? Peter, I'll go with you.
Well, the sweet spot's like 6.5. I mean, you get into some really deep water chemistry and inorganic chemistry to understand those differences. But yeah, you're really having an alkaline or acidic type water as you move that pH scale, and it has some there's somewhat to do with the water chemistry, but that middle ground is between 6 and 7 on the pH scale, and understanding how water changes. We could have a week-long podcast on organic water chemistry, but yeah, there's a perfect spot in there where water is well balanced in terms of its mineral content, and that all water seeks to be balanced. It's one of those funny compounds. I mean, most people don't know. You have there's a question from Anastasia about RO water, and when you manufacture water, I mean, RO systems is reverse osmosis. You're manufacturing pure H2O, water that has 0 mineral content, and pure RO water, pure H2O, is not found in the world. I mean, as a molecule, it exists, but if you go out to a lake, a river, a puddle, a swimming pool, it does not exist in a pure form anywhere. And when you manufacture water that is that pure, it will always seek to balance itself. And if you pour it on steel, concrete, wood, any surface, it will eat into that surface to naturally neutralize itself and balance itself. So if you put RO water into coffee, all the equipment it passes through, it's going to try to neutralize itself and balance itself by literally eating away at the surfaces, the molecules of everything it's in contact with. If you're using that for coffee, it's going to actually eat into the coffee grounds and change the chemistry of the coffee. It's not just going to dissolve the solid. So it's pretty unusual to use pure RO water in coffee. There's always some kind of balancing or mixture system when you manufacture water for coffee. They'll always blend back some filtered water, and you generally test it to create sort of an ideal total dissolved solid ratio, which is usually between 100 and 200 TDS, and you try to maintain that balance. So you do have very clean water. Sometimes that's good, and sometimes that's bad. There's some water, I would call them water aficionados, that will claim that your TDS should be at 500, and that just has to be the right TDS for coffee, and it's sort of all over the map. But I would argue that reverse osmosis water with blendback is a very safe way to produce coffee water. It's definitely not and very consistent, can be very consistent. I would argue that it's not the best, because the best is generally, it would be kind of using the analogy for New York City water. There's certain parts of the country where the water mineral content has a certain propensity to just a great tasting coffee. And again, knowing what you're working with in the beginning and understanding the water that you're given to work with is the first step to knowing if you can produce consistent quality coffee beverages. And short of that, if you're just given actually horrible water, I could pick some spots in the country to pick on, you're probably better off investing in a large RO system and trying to do a blend back or a mineral add back to produce sort of what would be characterized as perfect a coffee water as you can get. That being said, I'm not going to talk about the cost to do that.
Right.
Because that can be a costly venture. That's a whole nother podcast.
So,
And sorry,
go
Dave, and
ahead,
I just
Carlos.
wanted to quickly add tag along really
Of
interestingly
course.
because I've worked again in cafes with very like global, recognized brands where they have great, fancy, beautiful, scary looking, water systems in the back. And when the espresso shots are pulled and they're flat or they're bitter in taste, people will spend hours adjusting their grinds and trying to figure out what's happening there. But oftentimes it's the maintenance. If the minerals on these expensive reverse osmosis systems aren't maintained properly or checked on, or they also need care. So that's what I talked about in the beginning, the human element of it. That's usually where they can be off-putting, and reverse osmosis, can kind of, it's good it's definitely good, but there's also a downside to it as well.
So I know we're talking about filtration, but I just wrote it down. What's a flat shot for somebody that doesn't know? I know, but I'm curious.
Unbalanced, essentially, what
Yeah.
Peter was mentioning, right? It's an unbalanced shot, or you can have, even in the body, just you were talking about wine before, coffee and especially espresso. There's layers of, especially if you pull it through a
Like the
clear shot, you
crema.
can kind of see the crema and the body. That's one way that you can see it's very flat. It's just no crema. There's no separation in between the espresso shot.
And Carlos, this question is for you. I've had people actually ask me, so I'm going to ask you too. I've seen people bring up using pre-filters ahead of filters. Is that a good idea? Should people consider that, or should they just land at the filtration system they have? I'm just going to reference it into a coffee shop. Is that a vital part? Is that a need, or is that just a nice to have? You may not need it.
I can
Sorry,
answer
David.
that.
That's for you.
Oh, go ahead.
Well,
Yeah, go ahead, Peter.
I mean, most pre-filters are proactive. They're not necessary. One of the reasons that they're used is depending on if it's a super high capacity system, it can help to extend the life. So some of it is just extending the life by putting a pre-filter in. The best and the most, depending on where you're located, certain municipal water systems are very old. I'm here in Minneapolis. There's parts of the city that were the water systems and the inbound water supply pipes were constructed of brick in the late 19th century, and in some cases in the country out of wood. So there's parts of New York and Boston, and, the East Coast old cities where some of the mains, the water mains that are deep under the city, have never been replaced. And so they're made of sort of ancient materials. And although water's flowing through there fast and regularly, you can get particulate matter in your water supply. So it's meant to capture that. The biggest reason for pre-filtering is construction. So when you get pipe, sewer, road, any kind of reconstruction in an area where your water's being fed directly into that facility, you're going to get some amount of increased particulate matter from the construction process. And we've seen that over the years multiple times, where someone's filters just get clogged out of the blue. And even though their capacity is 5 or 10,000 gallons, whatever it would be, suddenly they're plugged up and you're not getting enough water flow and devices are starving for water. And it usually has to do with construction. So you see less and less of that these days. And obviously you're going to see it more in, older parts of the country where they're replacing old municipal systems. And even building construction and any kind of, modification to a water supply system will enhance that kind of particulate matter. And that's where it becomes beneficial. Would I say it's necessary? No, not typically. And depending on the facility, you do have now in corporate facilities, they have inbound coarse filtering for the whole building, because it can affect so much. All the water coming in will go through some kind of large particulate system to protect a large commercial complex, just because it can be so problematic, for everything. When you think about it, sinks and faucets and, any kind of, not in, obviously food service too, but it'll affect the whole facility.
Peter, you bring up a point that I was struck while you were talking is if you look at it globally, it can be really daunting. Like, oh my gosh, how am I going to manage that? But just hearing you and Carlos talk, if they bring somebody from your team or Carlos from your team and just have a conversation and talk about your facility, talk about your water, it doesn't need to be as scary as it appear, and you can get people in the right spot, whether it's a high capacity filter or dispenser, to make sure your operation or your dream cafe is working the way you had envisioned it. So that's a theme I'm hearing from both of you today. Bring you two in early, have those conversations, ask anything, because you're there to, as you mentioned, to partner.
Yeah, understanding water as an ingredient you're going to use for your menu. I mean, it's back to that. I mean, most people are just, it's such an afterthought. And if you were to open, a pizza place and you're considering the flour you're going to use and oven you're going to buy, I mean, all these things that are the ingredients, but, yeah, you're not including water, which is, potentially in the beverage business, 98% of what you're selling. So, it's a constant, I mean, we've got to be prophets for, water as an ingredient, and it's a constant in food service. And it's always kind of shocking that it isn't more important to more people. In coffee, I would say in the last 5 years, it's become more and more of almost on the high end, almost on an obsessive scale, which I said is good for all of us. It gets people really thinking about, is the taste of what I'm tasting the coffee, the water, or a combination of both, which I think is important for the whole industry.
I'm seeing any more, even from my side on the dispenser, is water is an amenity that's keeping generations in the office. If we're talking on the business side, the B&I, it's not just some drinking fountain we had as kids that everybody had. Now people want their own sparkling water, their own drink that they're making, their own beverage, where that's keeping people in the office, which I absolutely find fascinating. I wanted to remind everyone we still have opportunities for questions if anybody has anything. Just going to take a pause to see if we have any questions, guys. Well, nothing is coming up right now. We're getting close to the end. Carlos, I want to start with you. Any kind of parting thoughts, your thoughts, and this is going to be a big question for you. What about water do you want operators and partners to know, whether it's filtration, what they can do, their operation, really, you name it? Like, what is the key to their success from your vantage point? You're on mute, Carlos. There you are.
Thanks, David. The very first point you brought up, I think, is we can't say it enough. It's an overlooked ingredient in coffee and tea. Water it's so important, and what we're really just trying to get is education, figuring out what your end goals are, and we talk about a lot again about sustainability and the hidden costs in lime scale buildup over equipment and energy use, downtime, having to replace filters. Is something that we wanted to make easier for our operators. And yeah, there's one last thing that I would like to share with everyone is that we have catered solutions at Vivro for all types of applications, whether it's an espresso machine or now whether it's a very large banquet brewer or even drinking water as well. We have solutions for everyone. So yeah, we can visit our website, reach out to our knowledgeable distributors, and we have great resources. We have water experts that are specifically trained in solving problems for water technicians. So
And can they test water? And I don't know if that's a Peter or Carlos question. Can an operator have their water tested by you, Peter, or you, Carlos? You do that?
Vibro has that service. So yes, we can send in a water sample for a full chemistry analysis and a recommendation of what filter, and it can be done, I believe. I mean, Carlos, I believe we have a lab test system.
Yes, so we're just actually revamping that, but we do have a water analysis third-party group that we can send our water samples to. You also mentioned, Peter, we do have at Vivro, we do offer total hardness and temporary hardness kits and tests, as well as chloride tests as well that are available retail. So any cafe operator can reach out to our distributors on our website, depending where you are in the country, to gain access to that. But like as you mentioned, furthermore, we do have additional resources for those that want to have complete analysis of what.
Yeah, general testings really do identify any major issues that could come up. So Vivro has a full test strip general testing package that we use, every time, if at all possible. So I would say for an operator that's interested, they could reach out to any Vivro distributor and ask for a multi-chemistry test, which is going to taste chlorides, pH, iron,
they look like
hardness, and that's temporary. Yeah, there's temporary and permanent in addition to that. So, those are all ways to identify if there's a major problem and go further to have a full chemical analysis. But again, I mean, it really has to do with the operator and their interest. I'm going to go back to protection, though, and it was one of the things that we talk about water as an ingredient, and we didn't really spend a lot of time. So I'd like to close with talking about Vivro as a method to protect your equipment, because it's hard to find a piece of food service equipment for under $5,000 these days. And in the espresso equipment category, it's now hard to find things under $10,000. These are all imported European goods with, exchange rates and tariffs. And so you're making a significant investment into a piece of equipment you have to have to make espresso coffee. There's no way around it. And it's like you have to buy an ice machine to make ice. So this is a food production piece of equipment, very expensive, imported, expensive to maintain over time. So logic would say you're going to want to protect the water going in it and through it. And there's no better way to treat water than to treat it with a Vivro Purity C advanced system. It was designed originally to protect espresso equipment. All the technology and chemistry inside was solely created to protect espresso equipment. And that's another reason why we've been so excited to be involved with Vivro, is because the company is manufacturing something that they created for espresso coffee machines globally, and to be part of that offering and to work, they have competitors now in the market, but they are the original creator of this product. And it's proven 100% proven to be successful in treating calcium carbonate that is going to remove from the water to protect the espresso machine from that scale and calcium buildup. And I think that's in terms of just focusing on that part of the business, that's probably the best reason to engage with a Vivro distributor, to get a water test, to talk about your ingredient water, and to protect this big investment, sometimes as much as $25,000 or $30,000 for a piece of equipment these days, of which you would hope to get 5 to 10 years of effective production life out of. And I have seen machines that have 1 million plus usages cycles on them. So I can say for a fact, being in the industry for decades, that it's definitely worth the time and the investment in appropriate water treatment to take care of those assets.
And Peter, that's why you don't put unleaded gas into a Maserati. You get the super premium. It's the same thing as you said, a $30,000 espresso machine or a $50,000 combi oven, or you name it. It's you take care of your stuff, it'll take care of you. Fantastic. Well, guys, Peter and Carlos, I feel smarter today because of you two. Thank you. This has been an absolute pleasure learning about the life of water, water as an ingredient. Super excited about the high capacity, high flow filter that we have. And Peter, from a Vivro standpoint, we absolutely value our partnership with you. And the work we're doing in market is an absolute blessing for us as a company, and we look forward to bigger and better things. And Carlos, to you, thank you for your knowledge today. Appreciate everything. So if anyone wants to learn more information, Carlos, I'll start with you. How can they get more information on what we talked about today beyond the podcast? Do they reach out to you directly? They go to our website? What's the best way?
Sure. I think the website will link us. There's a contact us button on the professional filter side.
Okay.
That is definitely, I think, the best way to get in contact in your region, wherever you're from. And they'll eventually get to our professional filter team, and we'll take care of them.
Perfect. And Peter, if people want to work with your team, I know you work closely with us at Vivro. Can they find you on LinkedIn? What's the best way to reach you, Peter?
Yeah, I mean, you can email me, and you can find me on LinkedIn, and I think I'm found on the Vivro website. So, in terms of email, I'm Peter K at fnoimports.com. And again, I think I've been around a long time, so they can just Google me. There's not a lot of us around, but I'm pretty easy to find. I wish it was harder to find sometimes.
I love it.
I will say Peter's very responsive via phone and email. So
perfect.
Go ahead and reach out to myself there as well. Thanks, Stephen. Great.
Yep, you bet. Gentlemen, thank you very much. Have a great day. And again, thank you for making me for today feel just a little bit smarter when it comes to filtration. I appreciate it.
Thanks for the invite. I'm glad I could participate.
Yes, you bet. All right, fellas. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. Take care for everyone.